Everybody, thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to spend some time touching on today's hiring and retention challenges and why these challenges might be happening and what you can do technology-wise to solve them. But the majority of the time we will be spent on a live demo of Hireology and Netchex, where we'll walk you through exactly how our all-in-one solution helps address the issues plaguing the HR space today. And without further ado, I will kick it over to Jake Pleben, our major account executive at Hireology, and Chris Roig, our sales engineer from Netchex.
Thanks, Katie. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with us. Excited to talk to you more about what we're seeing in the market today and run you through a demo of Hireology and Netchex. Just a quick round of introductions. My name is Jake Pleben. I've been with Hireology for about 8 years now. I've helped thousands of organizations really improve their recruiting and hiring processes and build better teams. So excited to be with you all. Thanks for being here.
And I'm Chris Roig. I'm a sales engineer at Netchex. I've been in the HR space now for going on 13 years and have the opportunity to talk to somewhere in the neighborhood of 100, 120 different clients every month about their HR practices, the challenges that they're facing, and how the Hireology and Netchex solutions can help address some of those challenges. Excited to be here today.
Thank you, Chris. All right, guys, let's dig in. What I want to do today is just run you through some of the challenges that we're seeing in the market today, as well as a candidate study that we've produced. So this might be familiar to a lot of folks on this call, what we're seeing in the market in terms of challenges when it comes to recruiting and hiring. A really low volume of applicants today, right? On top of that, it's coupled with poor quality applicants. We're not getting the people that we want to put on our payroll. Over, I'd say, the past 6 months, a lot of candidate ghosting, right? We're investing time in these people and they're not showing up to interviews or they're not showing up on day one. And then, of course, high turnover, which is really affecting businesses throughout the country. So if these are applicable to you, one or all of them, we will cover a lot of that today and how you can solve some of these challenges. What I want to talk about is a candidate study that we produced about a month ago. We surveyed about 5,000 applicants and really what's important to them when it comes to their job search. I think companies today do a great job of internalizing and identifying what they need internally from a recruiting and hiring standpoint. But a lot of times we fail to really understand what's important to that applicant. And we can't take our eye off the ball because it's such a hard labor market today that we need to make sure that candidates are having a great experience from the minute they apply to when they're hired. So going into some of this data, I was shocked at some of these results. It's very, very eye-opening. 72% of people surveyed said they would give up on a job application because it took too long, while 52% of them said they wouldn't even apply if you had to create an account. Additionally, 54% won't complete an application if they cannot do it on their mobile device. After this webinar, I challenge all of you to go to your career site and apply to one of your jobs and put yourself in the shoes of an applicant. If it's taking more than a couple minutes, if I've got to go page by page or create a login, the chances of you landing that candidate are slim to none. We need to make it really, really easy for people to apply. And then let's get all the other information that we need later down the process when we've identified this person as a quality fit. Like I said earlier, ghosting. About 50% of job seekers have admitted to ghosting their future employers in the past year. Now let's get into why they're ghosting. I thought some of this data was awesome as well. I just want to highlight two different things here. The two highest responses is the hiring process took too long and the lack of communication and transparency from that applicant to the company. Again, a really hard labor market. We simply cannot miss out on quality applicants because our process is too long or because we're not in communication with these applicants. If you go through this list, most of these are avoidable, right? These are all things that we have total control of and we can eliminate these. So as you think about your recruiting and hiring process, start thinking about the time, right? If it's taking more than 2 weeks, you're not going to land that applicant. Try to identify areas where you can reduce that time to hire and focus your time on other things that you need to get done. A couple things relating to turnover, and this is all onboarding, which Chris will cover in a little bit here. 44% of people reported that a negative onboarding experience says they're somewhat loyal to their current employer, right? While 80% reported a positive onboarding experience, said they are very loyal to their current employer. So how do we interact with these people on day one? Do you sit there in a room and fill out tax documents for 2 hours? Or do you have that done before they come in and you can introduce them to the team, walk them around your facility, right? Get them really immersed with your culture and your people. Finally, 79% of people who quit their jobs cite a lack of appreciation, while employees whose managers consistently acknowledge them and talk about their great work, they're 5 times more likely to stay at their company. So another challenge for you all, think about how you reward your people. Think about how you communicate that to the rest of the team, right? Because that little gesture of saying, hey, this person did a great job can make a tremendous impact to their retention long-term. Those are the slides I wanted to cover. Now we're going to dive in and show you how this technology works and how you can leverage technology to help with recruiting, hiring, onboarding, payroll. So the first place that I like to start, right? I think the 3 things that organizations have to do, we've got to get great at speeding up this process. We've got to get great at finding quality applicants, and we have to have the data and analytics to really measure that, right? So I think the natural place to start is that quality. How do we drive qualified applicants in today's market? And when I talk to organizations, 10 times out of 10, it's people leveraging job boards, and that's it. I think you have to do 3 things very well to win in today's market. Build a strong employment brand, get out to as many job boards and cast a wide net for your applicants to have your jobs be visible, and then have a really robust employee referral program. So let's cover those 3 areas really quickly. I want to start on employment brand. What we do for all of our customers is we build an employment branded career site. So if you think about good applicants, nobody is going to read a 10 bullet point job description and say, this is a place for me. Those are the best 10 bullet points I've ever seen. Good applicants are doing their homework, right? They want to know what's in it for them. Why should I come work for you? What do I get as an applicant? So where a lot of organizations fall short is they don't brag about themselves as much, right? Talk about who you are. Talk about what you do in the community, how you give back to your team. These people have talked about all their different benefits. This is stuff that's really, really important to applicants in today's world. It's not just about the dollars and cents. They've highlighted different locations, right? They talk to people about how they're growing. What I love what this company did is they talk about specific employees who maybe started at a lower level position and then have grown in the ranks. Talk about career pathing. That is very, very important, especially for the younger generation who's making up a large part of this labor market. So anything that you can think of, let's talk about it. Don't let people find this out on your interview. Let them find out before they apply. That's what's going to start to drive more quality applicants. Additionally, what we'll do for you is we open up as many roles as you want. We want to get you in the practice of always being recruiting, not just when you need somebody. So let me get this back over here. So we'll open up all these roles and we'll push out to about 10 different job boards. So that's kind of the second part to this. We have to be active on job boards, and you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket, right? Let's send them out to as many places as we can and get eyes on that. So at Hireology, we'll help you with job descriptions. We'll push it out and we'll give you the data to manage that. Remember earlier, the third piece to this is an employee referral program. And this is really what I am most excited about. Look at how people run referral programs today. It's typically ad hoc, right? We bring it up during onboarding and we don't think to talk about employee referrals. But you know that employee referrals work, right? Think about all the great hires that you've made, but think about how small of a percentage your current employees participate in an employee referral program. And I think that's on us as a business, right? We have to express this, and we have to tell our employees on a regular basis, here's what you can get, help us recruit, because this truly is your only untapped source of applicants that you haven't really been utilizing. So at Hireology, we have an entire referral program that's automated and can get you better people on your payroll. So how this works is you have an overall leaderboard. I think naturally people get competitive. A lot of our customers run incentives, quarterly contests. Hey, whoever has the most referrals in Q4 of this year, we're going to send you an extra $2,000, $3,000, whatever that may be, right? Gamify it, get people active, get people excited. Nobody wakes up every day saying, hey, I'm going to refer my 5 friends to this job. It's just never top of mind. So you might be asking yourself, how do we manage this? We do it in 3 different ways: QR codes, text message campaigns, and email campaigns. What we found is texting is just the easiest way to do things. I'm going to show a QR code right now. And if you guys want to take your phones out and scan it, you can walk through a process of what it would look like if you are referring your friend. I'll go through that here in a second. If you don't have your phone, so no worries, but feel free to poke around. You can just get a feel for how easy it is to do this. Put these up in break rooms, right? I've got people that put this on their business card. Always be referring people. So what that'll look like, this is all done mobily, right? If I'm an employee at your organization and I want to refer a friend, it's done through a really quick chat bot. So yeah, I want to refer this person for a specific job. Let's just say they're a mobile developer. Sounds great. This is $1,000 referral bonus. Great. Let's get started. What's my referral's full name? Bob Smith. It's going to ask me a couple more things. Why am I recommending? Let's say he's got iOS experience. Send that in. That will give my recruiting team just a little note on kind of why I'm referring them. What's my name? That's it. My email. And then all I do is say, hey, contact my referral via email or via text. 9 times out of 10, I don't know my friends' emails, but I know their cell phone. It's going to make it so much easier. So then all I do is I put Bob's cell phone number in here. Bob will immediately get a text driving him back to that employment branded career site that we made you. That's it. No more back and forth between your manager or whoever it is you may do. All of this is on the candidate, on your employee. Super easy to do. What you can also do, and I think another piece to this is you can look at all of your referrals, anybody that's been referred to your organization. And just because they were referred and didn't get the job today, that doesn't mean that they're a valuable target that we can reach out to 6 months or a year from now. So let's leverage this list. Let's send out campaigns to people that have already applied and really start tapping into these applicants that you know are more likely qualified than somebody else. What we've seen with our customers, people that really utilize this referral tool and get their employees bought in and using this, it makes up anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 of their hires. Think about that, right? That's just something that we haven't done before. If we can have a robust referral program and it can make up 1/3 to 1/2 of your hires, what is that bottom line impact going to have on the company? Additionally, there's reporting. You can look at what campaigns worked, if you're getting better results with text messages or emails. So leverage that data. So that's that attract piece, right? Now we start to come into how do we manage this whole process? And really what Hireology is here to do is speed up your entire recruiting process. We want you to really interview people, get them through the cycle, and make a decision to hire or not in a faster manner, because you can't lose applicants due to time. So here's the overarching view. If you've got multiple locations, you'll have a bird's eye view of every one of your locations. I can jump in to one of the locations. This is great for HR teams, talent acquisition teams. They can see everything at a glance. Here's all of my open roles for this location. What I can do is then pop into a specific role where you'll see all of your applicants. We break things down between applicants and candidates. Think of applicant as anybody that's raised their hand saying they're interested in a job, and a candidate is somebody that we have deemed qualified, right? So in today's market, I talk to a lot of people that spend a lot of time reviewing resumes of people that will never make an interview, right? They're never going to be considered. Add all that time up. It's a lot of time we spend looking at unqualified folks. So what we'll do is we'll send out a survey. What I love about this is it engages the applicant right away. You can customize that survey to your liking. It's never going to tell you who you want to hire, just who's worth spending time on. So if I've got a 5-question survey and somebody can't give me 45 seconds to fill that out, as a hiring manager, that's what I want to know, right? Now I can focus on other people who actually want this job. We can put in knockout questions. Let's say you require all of your new hires to take a background check. If they say they're not willing to take a background check, let's move on. When it comes to really starting to get engaged with these applicants, I want to speed that process up for you as well. You can sit there and try to call them, but as we know, most people don't pick up random phone calls. You can sit there and email them. I know my personal email is at close to 40,000 right now. I promise you, I will miss emails if you send them to me. Let's text people, right? What we can do is text people directly through Hireology. Additionally, stop spending time crafting up the same message over and over and over again. If you're hiring, you're always going to be interviewing. Let's create templates. Let's get it out. There's some automated actions too that you can set up in Hireology that will send out automated text to people at different times to where you don't have to go in there and do that. So moving forward, guys, once you've decided that this person is qualified and we want to start running interviews, what we'll do is give all of your hiring managers really scripted interview guides. I think the challenge here is twofold. One, a lot of managers don't have that background in interviewing, and they don't really know what to look for, right? And two, I find that a lot of the times these processes and the way that we interview are inconsistent. We might be interviewing for the same role, but interview somebody completely different on Monday at 9 a.m. versus Friday at 3 p.m., right? I want to make sure that your hiring managers have everything they need to run a successful interview. So that will all change based on roles. If you guys have scripts that you like, great. I don't want to come in there and fix anything that's not broken. We can input your custom questions, but again, keeping people consistent and really making sure that they're checking all their boxes. Internal communication is great as well. Very easy to do. If you've got multiple moving pieces within your hiring process, multiple people, you can communicate back and forth. You don't have to go sift through emails. You don't have to go sift through Teams messages, Slack messages. Everything will be tied to that applicant. We've got other tools such as automated reference checks. We've got hard skills testing, which is very applicable for, skilled labor, hourly labor, whatever you have, we'll have the right testing for you. And we've got personality assessments. So I've got a lot of clients that like to run all of these different assessments just to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's on, is this person the best fit? Really what we're doing is we're arming you with all of the data you need to make a good decision when it comes to hiring. As you can see, offer letters are in there. We've got background checks, we've got drug screens, we've got motor vehicle reports, all in one consolidated platform. The last thing that I want to show everyone is that intelligence that we spoke about. So this to me, I think is one of my favorite pieces of Hireology. I think it's so hard to manage what you can't measure, right? So we invest a ton of money in job boards and we invest a ton of money in other tools. But what we don't have is the data and analytics to really drive our decisions. More importantly, is this a good investment, right? We're spending $10,000 a month on job board X. What are we getting in return? That's what I really want to start to understand. So if we have to make those bets, let's do it with a little bit of data. So we can look at things like this, your hiring velocity. What % of your applicants have you reviewed, right? If you've got somebody at a healthy home in Cleveland coming to you saying, hey, we can't get good applicants because of A, B, C, D, I would go back and say, hey, maybe it's because you're looking at 59% of the applicants, right? What happened to that other gap of people that just haven't been reviewed? Another thing is let's really dial down, how long does it take us to review people? If it's taking managers 3, 4, 5 days to review somebody after they've applied, like the data I showed you earlier, that candidate's going to be on to the next opportunity. Are we spending time, unnecessary time in certain hiring steps, right? This all goes back to how do we make faster hires? And this will help us understand each step of our process and how much time it's taking. If we notice, hey, our interviews are taking 3 days, how do we drive that to 2 days? Or how do we drive that to 1 day? Or, hey, we're sending out references, it's taking 5 days. We're not getting a whole lot back in return. Do we want to do this, right? Or how can we speed that up? Additionally, your time to hire. Let's look at different locations and say, from the minute they apply to when we hire them, how long is it taking us? So what I love about this is if you've got multiple locations throughout a state or throughout the country, leverage this data. Hey, I know I'm hiring people in Detroit on an average of 2 days, but in Chicago, it's 13 days. So where is that 11-day delta coming from? If I'm in Chicago, I want to get on the phone with the people in Detroit and learn from them. How can I drive that time to hire down? So there's a lot of different data points that you can leverage just to become better and faster at hiring. The last thing that I want to show you when it comes to sourcing and data is really looking at, hey, here's where all my applicants came from. Here's who's moving to a candidate. And ultimately, here's who's converting into a hire. So if we're on Career Builder and we've got a $5,000 budget with Career Builder and it's equating to 4% of our hires, the next thing I'm going to do is, okay, let's reduce that spend and invest it in places that we know are tried and true and are giving us better applicants. So that's what I wanted to cover with you today, really looking at speed, quality, intelligence. I'm excited to pass it over to Chris and really show you kind of how you need to have these systems that talk together, make your life a whole lot easier, as well as a much better candidate experience. So if there are any questions, I know we've got time at the end, excited to answer them. But again, everyone, thank you so much for the time.
Perfect. Thanks, Jake. So really, Jake talked a lot about creating this great experience for our applicants, from creating a branded career site into ensuring that we have a great process that moves people through the hiring process quickly. But what we don't want is we don't want to create this great recruiting process and then drop our candidates off a cliff when it comes time to onboarding, to onboard them to the company. You know, like we said, 80% of clients or employees that said they had a great onboarding experience are more loyal to their current employer. And so when I find a great candidate inside of Hireology, I'll just click the button to hire them and instantly pass them an email with the link to start the onboarding process. And when we start, this is an example of what our new hires are going to see. What we deliver is a page that's dedicated to a new hire with a unique layout, big calls to action to make sure that your new hire knows exactly what to do without any training or support from your team. So when John first logs in here, he sees, hey, I've got 12 things that I need to do to get ready for my first day. He may not start for 2 weeks while he works out his notice period, but we can keep him engaged in our process throughout that time, making it easy for him to do things like complete his tax forms or fill out his emergency contact information. What's great about this is that all of these onboarding employee support tools are available on their mobile device as well, whether it's using their mobile browser or the native app that we supply in the App Store or the Play Store. Employees are going to have a great experience regardless of the device they're using. Well, as long as that device isn't one of these. We also want to make this more of a social feel and a social experience for our employees by pushing up the profiles of the people in their department. Hey, you were hired at the location in Charlotte as a CNA, as a housekeeper. Hey, great. Here's some of the other people that work in your department. By the way, take a minute and fill out your own social profile. And so what we're doing is we're starting these connections. I talked to a friend recently who told me he was uploading his profile pic on his PayPal account. So if people are uploading a pic on PayPal and doing a profile on PayPal, why as their employer would we not want to provide that same experience? Plus, as they go through this process of onboarding, we make it very easy for your employees. Let's take, for example, something everyone has to do, tax forms. Now, I bet you guys would all agree with me that as if tax forms weren't hard enough, that new one that we got in 2020 is a disaster, right? I guarantee you, whoever wrote that tax form doesn't work with new hires, because if they did, they surely would have given us something that was a little more streamlined and simple. And so we're going to go a step further than just pushing out a fillable PDF to your employees to make an electronic process. What we're doing is we're actually guiding your employees through a simple wizard, kind of like what I do when I do TurboTax at the end of the year. So it's going to start by using the employee's address information to push out the appropriate forms. So John is actually hired at my property in Atlanta, my facility in Atlanta. So he's got a Fed form and he's got a Georgia form. But that's based on the address of his home address and which location he's going to work on. And we're going to push out the appropriate tax form automatically. If your employee wants to do their form in Spanish, that's totally fine. We know that we've got a lot of workers whose first language is not English, and we fully support that. I'm going to go through it in English today because I'm not bilingual. So John needs a W-4. And so now, instead of a fillable PDF, he just gets a simple questionnaire like, hey, dude, are you a non-resident alien? And look, here's all the language. And typically an employee looks at that and goes, no, that's not me. Great. Are you exempt or not exempt from tax withholding? Well, here's all the requirements to be exempt. So they're going to say, man, I wish I was, but no. What's your filing status? Now this one, this is that middle section of the new W-4 where people have a tendency to stop, look at us and ask questions like, where do I put the 2? Right? And we're, oh no, hey, we don't do 2s anymore. You got to do this crazy math thing. And so what do? They ask you to help them, right? And then your site admin or their manager's like, hey, I'm really not a tax advisor. You need to talk to your accountant. They're like, my accountant? I do my taxes at H&R Block. What are you talking about? So we're going to make this easy for them, right? We don't want that to be their first experience. So, hey, do you want to do one of these worksheets? If you do, great, we'll walk you through it. But you know what the data tells us? They don't want the worksheets. They click none of the above. Hey, do you have any dependents? Yeah, I got a few. Great. Tell me how many dependents you have. No need for them to do any multiplication. Hey, anything extra that you want to have withheld or anything else we need to know about? And most people are going to tell us, no, don't take any extra. You take enough already, right? And then the first time the employee is presented with a tax form, everything's filled out for them. We've populated all the demographic information we collected. We've populated all the answers to the questions. And so for an employee, it's kind of like when TurboTax shows me a 1040, I'm like, yeah, that looks good, right? Same thing for your employee. They're presented with a completed form and they're very comfortable and confident that they filled this out correctly. For you guys, you get back a complete, compliant, legible, correct, signed form the first time every single time. And because this is the same system that runs the payroll and manages the HR, all of that updates payroll automatically. That completed PDF of their tax form is stored in their profile. So if you ever need it, you can go and grab it. And then we just guide them through the same thing on the state side. And it's not just at new hire. If they want to change their taxes later, we'll walk them through the same exact wizard, empowering your employees to be able to make those changes on their own, but to also feel comfortable that they've made those changes correctly, limiting the number of questions that are coming to your administrative teams. And it's not just the tax forms. We make it easy for them to complete I-9s and workflow that over to the site admin to complete Section 2. Even give the employee the opportunity to upload their I-9 docs. And look, that's as simple as just take a picture from your phone. Do you know what our younger generations don't have at home? Printers and scanners. Gen Xers, baby boomers, we still have a printer in the house, but our millennials and our Gen Z don't have it. And so we've got to give them tools where they can upload this information easily. And it's not just their I-9 info. You guys work in industries where we need some credentialing. Do you need a CPR certification, a nursing license, a CNA certificate, a ACLS or a BLS? Whatever certifications you need, you can have those pushed out to the employee pre-hire. And those tasks that employee needs to complete can be different based on the position or the role the employee was hired into. Because here's the deal. Hiring somebody who's going to work in the administrative office looks very different than hiring a new LPN. I've got to be able to push out the appropriate policies and push out the appropriate credentialing tasks to that employee based on the role that they're hired into. And Netchex and Hireology make that super simple for you. And of course, employees are also going to fill in their direct deposits, their emergency contacts and EEO. Then you guys are going to be able to customize what else you need from that employee. Obviously, something everyone needs is a company handbook. The average company handbook is 37 pages long. And I've worked with a lot of companies that have 10-page handbooks, so I know there's some whoppers out there. And look, we print off a handbook and we give it to the employee, and where does it end up? The back seat of the car? File 13? So why not deliver just an electronic copy of the handbook to the employee where they can read and review that on their own, on their computer, on their smartphone, and then we'll capture that signature electronically. Now look, I respect that there's some things in the handbook that you want to make sure that your employee read, and 100% let's do that. I was talking to a group just the other day who said they spend 2 hours in an employee's onboarding process, going through all of the new hire paperwork with them. And you know what the average attention span is for someone? I'll tell you, it's not 2 hours. What if we could slim the amount of time that we spend with that new hire down and really just focus on the important things. Hey, you've already received a copy of the handbook, and I see that you've signed off on it. That's great. I just wanted to take a minute and point out a few policies to you here to draw your attention to them. Hey, now we're providing a totally different experience for that employee when they come in. We're spending time on the most important things because we've gotten some of those, let's call them low value items, out of the way. We've done the tax form. They did the direct deposit. They signed off on the handbook electronically. One of the other things that's great that we can do is also start to use video in our onboarding process. And so in a typical hiring experience, we are hot and heavy during the recruiting. Jake talked about how we want to get those touch points and move somebody through in less than a day. So we're talking to them pretty regularly throughout that hiring experience. But then in the notice period, is it just radio silence? What if through onboarding, not only we're giving them the opportunity to start completing some of their information and documentation, but also leveraging video in the onboarding experience? A lot of companies are starting to do this where, here's the deal, employees don't want to read anymore. Evidenced by Pew Research did a study in the summer of 2021 measuring social usage statistics for our youngest generations. And what we found was that that group reported that about 37% of them are daily active users on Facebook. Twitter was down in the teens. So we don't have very high adoption. And what they said is that those are text-heavy platforms. Twitter's like 211 characters. Compare that to your handbook and talk about text-heavy, right? But what's interesting is that same cohort reported that 95% of them are daily active users on YouTube. And look, if I look at my kids, man, that's it. They don't want to read. They want to watch a video. And so what if in that time where we're going through this process with our employee, they're working out their notice with their current employer. Oh, if I could type the password right, we're able to show them a video of what their onboarding process is going to look like. And of course, I can't type and talk at the same time. This is actually the video that we use at Netchex to kind of just get our employees acclimated. Tell them a little bit about our culture, reinforce the idea that, hey, when you joined our team, that was a great decision. We are a tech-forward company, great place to build a career. We've talked about some of our superstars and our highlights. And then the employee watches the video and simply signs off on that electronically. Now, this is not going to replace your LMS. I know a lot of you guys have some specific learning and training courses, and we get to all of that once the employees actually started with us. But what this does is it helps create this great onboarding experience that reinforces the company culture. It reinforces the idea that you made the right decision when you joined our team. And that's what we're trying to do with this onboarding experience. And again, you guys customize this. If you need to have a tax questionnaire or a non-compete agreement, you can build in every specific task that you need for your employees. And best of all, while your employee is doing all of their tasks, we'll also help with that checklist of things that need to be done for the employee. And so things like, hey, I've got to assign an access card so this person can get into the facility. They need an email address or a login to the EMR or a uniform or a name tag. A lot of times, even companies I talk to with electronic onboarding, they still have an Excel or paper checklist of things that need to be done for that person. And too often what happens is the new hire comes in and our hiring manager, our administrative officer is playing what I call the new hire shuffle. A new hire walks in the door and I got to shuffle out. Oh, I got to get your, let me get your login. Oh, I got to get your badge. What if when that person was hired, IT got an automated email from the HR platform and said, hey, I need you to get an access card for John. Hey, Chad, I need you to set up an email address. And Cheryl, can you issue a uniform? And all of those tasks hit their inbox with a due date. If something slips, we just set those due dates to say, hey, I really need this done 3 days before hire. So that way, if it slips, we've all missed an email. Cheryl's going to get an automated reminder starting on the due date that says, hey, we still need you to issue this uniform. We still need you to get this access card. And so now when that employee comes in, we're ready. We got our stuff together. We are reinforcing the message that we are a great company. We are excited to have you here, instead of eroding that message by not being prepared for them or having their things ready to go on day one. And the same is true for offboarding. And so as we look at an employee leaving, we need to turn off their access to the EMR, forward their email address so that any communications that come in from our clients or families comes to the right person. All of those tasks can be automatically assigned at offboarding as well. And it doesn't end with an onboarding experience. How are we keeping our employees engaged throughout the process and ensuring that we're empowering our employees to self-serve, to have access to the information that they need, to get feedback from our managers about their performance over time? And so what happens is an employee's self-service view changes. So when an employee is first hired, we want to give them tax forms and I-9s. We really don't need to show them PTO or pay stubs. We'll get to that. But once the hire date comes and goes, hey, they probably are looking for those things. This is the employee mobile app. This mobile app was configured for your employees. We call them the deskless workers. While you and I sit in front of a computer all day long, your employees don't. They're up and out and working with our residents and in our facilities. And it's important that we deliver tools that they can use from the devices they have. And it's easy for them to find the things they're looking for. I bet that without ever training you on this, most of you guys could figure out where to go if you need a copy of your pay stub. Hey, I've been working at the facility for a couple of months now, and I'm ready to buy a new car and upgrade. And I'm sitting at the finance desk, and they just asked me for my pay stubs. Well, instead of calling you or calling my manager or trying to, hey, how do I do this? I go to that mobile app where I onboarded, I Face ID in, and boom, there's the link to grab my paycheck stubs. Super simple, whether an employee's coming to just check their hours and make sure it's right, or download a copy of the check to their phone. They can go back in time and grab their past pay stubs, grab their W-2s and tax forms. All of that is made very accessible to the employees on their mobile device so that they can access the things they need with little to no training. Of course, this is also where we'll manage all of the time and PTO and scheduling. Employees can easily punch in and out, and we support web punch, PTO punch, or a hardware clock, making it easy for you to capture your labor costs and report on that. We also manage all of your PTO electronically. Employees can easily see their balances and submit electronic requests for time off. Managers are alerted with an automated text or email where they can simply approve or decline, which automatically then updates the employee, letting them know their time's been approved. There's nothing more frustrating for an employee than getting to a payday and realizing, oh gosh, I didn't get my vacation pay. And then that always turns into an emergency for HR or payroll to have to run a check on Friday and get it to the facility. Hey, let's get out in front of that by making this a more automated electronic process, plus give our employees what they want, which is an update. Hey, your vacation has been approved. They get a simple text message just letting them know once their managers made that update. And so now I can confidently go schedule my vacation, book my Airbnb, and ensure that, hey, I know my time's been approved. This will also be where we're going to manage all the employee schedules. And so employees can easily start to see when they're scheduled to work, what shifts am I scheduled to work? And not only can they see that information, we'll also give them the control to be able to actually request a trade. Behind the scenes, we set up the parameters that says, hey, Troy, you have these certifications and these licenses on your profile. You can pick up these types of shifts. And so Troy sees the list of shifts that are available for him to trade with. Well, let's go to next week. And so he can trade a shift with one of his peers. We're also only showing him the people that can actually pick up his shift. So maybe instead of Thursday, he wants to work on Saturday and he wants to trade with Virginia. Well, now he submits that trade request and Netchex automatically sends Virginia a text. Hey, Troy would like to trade shifts with you. Are you cool with that? Virginia says, yeah, I'm cool with that. That sounds great. Then a text goes out to the supervisor that says, hey, these two guys want to trade. Are you cool with that? When the manager approves it, boom, the schedule is automatically updated. Now we have accurate scheduling. We don't have a piece of paper hanging on the wall and people coming in on their day off trying to look at what they're scheduled to work. No, all of that was delivered in the app. Employees got a text message when their schedule was published. If they want to make a change, we're not scratching things out on the Excel posting. We're doing that electronically. And best of all, we now have a record of that request. I can see exactly when the request was submitted, who submitted it, who approved it. And so instead of having a shift where I have nobody that shows up and I've got two employees pointing at each other going, you said you'd take my shift. No, I never said that. Now I've got a paper trail electronically inside of Netchex that says, hang on. Virginia, Troy sent the request here. You approved it on this date. I approved it on this date. This is your shift. Plus, because the scheduling and the time are in the same system, you guys can get all the reporting you need showing you hey, do I have an employee that's been late a lot? Picture this. What if I could put a report in your manager's hands that showed them the exact days that an employee punched in late over a defined period of time? Now we go from, man, I get the feeling that so-and-so's really been late a bunch. And one of two things happens. Your manager doesn't do anything about it, or they blow up on the employee, but they don't have any proof. What if instead the manager could go to Netchex, run a quick report on the employee's punches and their schedule, and then sit down with them and show them, hey, Troy, here's the 5 times you've been late this month. What's going on? It's a whole different kinds of conversation when I've got some documentation that I can put in their hands. Employee engagement's also important with our social responsibility. Look, we talked about highlighting how you get involved in the community on your hiring page, and that's fantastic. But we also want to make sure that employees can continue to see that social responsibility and how we get involved, and can even get involved themselves. With Helping Hands, you guys are able to create a campaign for any charity you'd like. Survey your employees, find out what's important to them. In this case, I've picked Children's Miracle Network, and we're running a campaign to raise $5,000. My employees, through their self-service app, can opt in to the campaign at any amount they would like, to give a recurring donation throughout the campaign or just a one-time donation. And we'll keep accounting happy by making sure the deduction's automatically set up and it goes to a unique line item in the GL. But more importantly, we'll show your employees how their contributions, Chris is $5, Jake's $20, Katie's $30. Hey, together, we've been able to make this impact towards this cause that we all said was important to us. A lot of companies are really good at giving back. They're really good at social responsibility. They're not always as good at sharing that with the employees and showing them how their contributions have made an impact. With Netchex and Hireology, we make that easy for you guys and keep it front and center for your employees to help keep them engaged. We're also managing all of the benefits enrollment, automatically measuring employees to determine, hey, is this employee eligible for benefits? And that can be based on a waiting period or based on hours worked. We'll work with you and your broker to build out the plans and then capture all those enrollments electronically. Downstream, that's going to update all your payroll deductions, your COBRA, your ACA, and also share with your employees their total compensation statement. With total compensation, we're able to show the employees the value of everything you pay. Hey, look, it is a very competitive space right now. We have to do everything we can to keep our employees. And maybe the firm down the street just offered one of your employees another $1 an hour. But before that employee quits on you, they remember one time they showed me this thing, and they go pull their total compensation statement. And it reminds them, hey, you know what? Yes, as an employee, you make $48,000 a year as a CNA, right? But don't forget, we also make some nice contributions towards your retirement. Maybe we do a match on your retirement, or we pay a good portion of your health insurance, or we pay 100% of your disability insurance. And by the time you factor all of that in, look, you're not making 48, you're making the equivalent of 58. So if you leave me to go work a job for $50,000 a year cash wage, well, by the time you fund your retirement, pay for your medical insurance, you're actually taking a pay cut. And because payroll and benefits are in the same platform, it's easy for you guys to deliver this information to your employees. Again, another touch point to help keep those employees systematically engaged. We also have great solutions to manage performance reviews for your employees. Whether that's a manager completing a review on behalf of one of their team members, or if it's an employee filling out their self-evaluation. Employees want more feedback. Survey after survey after survey has told us that employees want more feedback. In fact, a recent survey by Gallup reported that 86% of employees in America are either not engaged at work or actively disengaged at work. And the number one reason that they cite is lack of feedback. What if we had just a simple, easy way for managers to give employees feedback? An automated review is automatically assigned 30 days after hire, 60 days after hire, 90 days after hire, every year. And the manager can easily, right from the mobile app, answer a few simple questions, give us some additional comments about an employee's performance. And then after a series of approvals, that feedback can be delivered to the employee themselves. Employees want to know how they're performing, and they want to be recognized for what they've done well. But without a reminder for the manager, it just doesn't happen as often as we need it to. And without some type of guardrail and process for a manager to systematically deliver that feedback, maybe we're not sure exactly what the employee is going to get, and maybe we're not getting the desired result. But with NetPerform, we're able to easily deliver all of that feedback to the employee through a structured, easy to complete environment that the manager can complete in just a few minutes. And of course, as an administrator, you guys have access to all of the data you need inside of the HRIS. I like to refer to this as your HR HQ. This is where we come to be able to see things like employee milestones, hey, birthdays, anniversaries, even expiring licenses and certifications. And on that note, tasks aren't just for new hires. What if I could assign a task to a current employee? They get an email that says, hey, I need your new CPR certification. And that task is due next week. And if I get it, great. If work flows to me for approval, if I don't, but we've sent some email alerts to the employee and to you. Hey, this certification is now overdue. We need to get this from the employee. And you guys don't have to keep up with every single task, maybe just what's overdue and just managing those exceptions. Same thing when it comes to benefits. With the benefits platform, we can automatically measure employees for eligibility and alert you and them when they're eligible. We'll put a tickler on your dashboard letting you know how many people need to enroll. And as the employees complete the enrollment, we'll tick that number down. Why does that matter? Well, because there's nothing worse than an employee missing their enrollment window. Or you as an HR professional waking up in the middle like, oh, I forgot to get that employee's paperwork back for benefits enrollment. Now I can come in here. Today's the 10th. I've got 3 people eligible. No big deal. But if today was the 28th and I've got 3 people, hey, I know that the system's already sent a few alerts. I need to go follow up with those 3 people and make sure that they either elect or decline their benefits so that I have that record. And if they need benefits, I can get them on the plan and get their cards issued. But we don't have to manage that with Outlook reminders or Post-it notes. We're managing all of that inside the HRIS. On the back end, there's great tools to help you keep up with all of your key performance indicators, dashboards built to help you look at some of those more common items like turnover and benefit spend, wage and headcount analysis. And not only can you easily see this data, you can also dive into it and start to slice and dice it in new ways. So for example, turnover is very expensive. We're always watching our turnover figures, and we can look at that over any date range that we want. We can change the filters to say, hey, maybe I lose a lot of people in the first year, but do I have a certain position that has higher churn? Do I have a certain manager that might be running people off here? Do I have a certain age group that I need to work on and understand how to better hold and retain that group of employees? Maybe it's departmental. Oh gosh, lots of departments in there. Let me just drill down to my facilities in Texas and look at that group. And so I can start to understand exactly what's going on in our organization from an HR standpoint without having to run multiple reports to Excel, spend half a day doing Excel gymnastics, and then get to the board meeting and find out that I don't have the one thing they asked me for. Because that's what always happens, right? Now I can really just dive in and we can start to look at that data together through the Insights dashboard powered by Netchex and Hireology. And there's a ton that we can dive into. I hope this gave you a good feel for how we're systematically engaging employees all the way from the point of, hey, they are just looking at our careers page and starting to explore the idea of working with us all the way through that journey to help us leverage tools that make it more efficient for us to attract the best talent and to keep that talent around, to help make sure that those employees are still employed with us 30 days later, 60 days later, and a few years later, and that employee is systematically engaged at every point of the journey. And with that, Katie, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions that may have come in. I know typically there's a few questions as we're doing these presentations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris and Jake. That was super informative. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll get to those. All right, well, thank you all so much for attending our webinar today. You will get a recording sent to your inbox on Monday, so stay tuned. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.